Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Welcome back. This is Lisa coming to you from Broken to Birth. I hope that you all are having an amazing day. We have been having some severely hot weather all across the globe, especially here in the South. But I do hope that you're able to get out and enjoy the sun. It's something about being in the outdoors. It's something about being in the sun and in the freshness of the air that just does something to your spirit. It refreshes your mind. It revives your spirit. And so get out and allow some of the sun to just penetrate through your skin and allow the warm weather and the air to just blow through your head. Now listen, I wanted to come to you very quickly, really shortly. A couple of weeks ago, I was really thinking about a situation that I was going through. And as I was meditating on that today, the issue that I was going through back then, it brought to me the thought of a frog. Most of us don't see frogs like we used to. You have to go to the pet store, maybe go to the zoo or something like that to see a frog. But when we actually see frogs, do we really pay attention to what the frog represents? A frog is naturally green in color. But the purpose of the frog, they're known for jumping and they're known for swimming. Most of us are more aware of the functionality of the frog and its purpose in jumping. But a frog is also brings a sign of prosperous weather to come. And a frog is also a symbol of transformation. As I've gotten on here several times before and talk about transformation, I talk about it a lot because I find myself in that state. I'm still in that state of transformation. And as we allow ourselves to transform through the events that we're going through and the things that are the changes that are transpiring in our lives, we found ourselves in these comfort zones where, we know that we can't go back to the way that things were, especially since COVID-19 came. We can't go back to the way things were. We can't stay where we are. Why? Because God is shifting things. He's doing a new thing. I was having a conversation a little bit ago with a friend, and we were talking about how change is taking place and how I was reminding her about how seasons change, and as seasons change causes our lives to shift. Whatever happens in our environment, whether it's in the actual physical environment in which we live in, whether it's regarding our families, our friends, our workplace, whenever change has to take place, there's a shifting that takes place in our lives and in our minds. Our minds have to shift. Our hearts have to make a shift change. And so that brings me back to transformation. There's transformation that God is always trying to do on the inside of you and on the inside of me. And so as I think about the frog, I think about the ability that the frog has to leap at long distances. And so as we are transitioning and matriculating through life, as our world is changing, we're having to adjust ourselves mentally, emotionally, and physically. As we change and allow the transformation that God is doing within us because of the changes that are happening in our world, let us think about the frog and allow ourselves to take long, stretched leaps of faith. Let us leap in faith in doing and believing what God has already promised us that He would do. The transformation that you seek to take place within you, allow God to do that transforming work in you that He needs to do. Allow yourself to leap in faith, to do whatever it is that God has impressed upon your heart to do. It says that the frog brings a sign of prosperous weather. Weather, in this regard that I'm talking to in regards to change, the weather in which we know it can be sunny. And those of us that live in Houston, we know it can be sunny one day and then pouring down, rainstorming the next day. But as the internal weather, the seasons of our lives change, let us remember that the word frog that I'm going to use for you today, the acronym, fully rely on God. Fully rely on God through the process of your transformation. Fully rely on God when you have to take leaps of faith and you're afraid and don't know what's gonna be beyond that leap that you're taking. Take a leap of faith and trust God and believe Him that no matter what it is that He said and promised to you that He would do, that His word is always true. Remember, God is trustworthy. His name is truth. His words are truth. And so as I'm thinking about the frog, I'm encouraging even myself to take leaps of faith. Whatever it is that God is calling us to do, He wants us to take leaps of faith. We can't always trust what we see with our natural eyes, but we trust and believe in the faith that God has given us to do what we may think and feel is the impossible. Whatever is going on in your life, whether there's loss that you have to grieve over, whether there's changes that's taking place in the lives of your children, your spouse, your family members, just remember that God has everything in the palm of His hands, and He is charging us to be a frog, to leap in faith, to allow the changes of weather to take place in our lives, because as those changes take place, God is shifting us from one season into a next, allowing us to grow and develop and be nurtured by the power of His hands, to be transformed to be who He will delight in us to be. Fully rely on God. No matter what the enemy allows you to focus on, no matter what he brings to your remembrance, no matter what he puts in your view, no matter how many stumbling blocks he chooses to put in your way, your response is to totally, fully rely on God. Rely on God even when you can't see. Allow the transformation to take place. Sometimes we have to cry through the process, because what we're going through and what we feel on the inside of us that's taking place, we may not fully understand and we may not like how it feels. But rely on God through the process. Let Him change you. Let Him transform you. Allow yourself to let go and follow the wind of the Spirit as the seasons in your life change. Frogs represent prosperous weather and our symbol of transformation. And I take that as such an amazing thing to know that God can take such small creatures and make them so significant in the world in which we live in. Make them significant even in our own lives if we take a really good look at them and really soak in what they represent. Remember, every time you think of a frog now, remember these words: fully rely on God. May God bless you and keep you, is my prayer. Until next time, you have a fantastic weekend.